What's going on, everybody? I hope you're all having a wonderful day today. My name is Ty, for those of you that are new here, and today in this video, we're going to be talking about Marvel Studios' brand new limited series they just released, Echo. And guys, just to cut straight to the point here, I don't know if I've ever been more conflicted internally on an MCU project ever. And I'm not saying that like it's really good, I'm not saying it's really bad, I just have so much to say about this series. I have so many thoughts built up inside of me that I'm just so conflicted. I feel like I'm being torn apart. If you guys like this video and you could drop a like down below, that would mean the world to me. And also, if you want to subscribe, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. That would literally mean so much to me. You could, join the family, join the gang, whatever you want to say. All right, so let me just get right into spilling my thoughts here, because like I said already, I have so much to say about a show that I'm just conflicted on. That's the only word I could really use. So, getting into things here. There's been projects released within the past year or so, like Guardians 3 and Loki Season 2, that I have loved. There's been MCU projects like Secret Invasion and The Marvels that I have not liked. And still, even though I had strong opinions on which side of those I kind of sway, I still feel like I have more to say about Echo than even those projects. And let me just start by saying this. And I feel like I just want to start by saying a thesis, because just to sort of summarize my thoughts so you guys can kind of see what I'm saying. And I was thinking, what's like one sentence that could sort of wrap up my feelings, my opinions that I just want to tell you guys about. And I came up with this statement, basically. That statement is pretty much this. I thought Echo was fine, but I had to force myself to finish it. I think that the best way I could go about giving my opinions on the show is just by kind of, bouncing around from, main character, villain, story, things like that. But I think the most important thing with this show, to start with, is the foundation that it rests on. So getting into things here. First of all, I want to start by saying this, and I swear to God, I'm not making this up. When I went to watch Echo, I was sitting down, I had it up on my TV, and I just was sitting there, and I just did not want to start it. It was only 5 episodes, and we'll get into, the length and stuff in a little bit. But the thing is, I went on my phone, and I scrolled on Instagram for a half hour, before I even pressed play. By the time I pressed play, I swear on my life, I am not making this up, 7 minutes into episode 1, the power in my house went out. Everything, the TV turned off, everything was out for like an hour. And deep down inside of me, I was kind of just like, thank God, because I don't have to watch the show. And I was just thinking, as someone that, myself, proclaims they're a diehard MCU fan, why should I be saying, wow, my power just went out, thank God I don't have to watch this MCU show? Why should I be saying that? It doesn't make sense. And then, okay, getting more into details of what I was saying about the actual foundation, and not just my watching experience. This show, okay, all the marketing was pushed that it's going to be a TV, MA show based off of this side character from Hawkeye. Okay. The thing is, though, just to watch Echo, on paper at least, okay, I get it, maybe they recap stuff, but on paper, this is a show, a limited series, that's a Marvel spotlight, meaning you technically don't really have to watch it. That's a spin-off of another show, meaning that you have to watch Hawkeye before it, and also sort of a spin-off of a Netflix Marvel show, Daredevil, with, Kingpin and also Daredevil's in it. So you have to watch Hawkeye and Daredevil, pretty much, to understand this show, technically. And also, you have to be interested enough to want to see what's going on with the side character in Hawkeye, that being Echo herself. So right off the bat, we're not really off to a good start. Then, getting into the TVMA stuff, how this is the first rated R thing in the MCU, it feels like that's literally all they had to market this show. Every single trailer was like, look how bloody it is. You guys might want to hide your kids before you watch this trailer. There's going to be a lot of blood in here. Yo, we're going to be cutting people's heads off. Then you watch the show, okay? And again, I don't really want to dive too much into the actual details of the show yet, because I'm getting there. I just want to start with the foundation. You get into the show, and there's maybe, 5 scenes, or, give or take, I could just count on one hand how many scenes there are that truly feel rated R. And the thing is, the dialogue still feels PG or PG-13. It still feels like it's from that MCU formula. And that alone is a problem, because it just makes me think, why does this show exist? Straight up. Before I even watched it, I was just thinking, why do I need to watch this show? And that's why I didn't want to watch it. And I know there's been all this talk on whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, space as a whole, about superhero fatigue. I don't think I have superhero fatigue. I think I'm just sick of seeing projects that I'm not interested in or that aren't good. And that's what really frustrated me. That's the only reason why I just wasn't excited to see this. I think the best thing to do would just start off by talking about the main character herself, Echo. And I want to make one thing clear. The best thing about this short 5-episode series is Echo herself. And as a character in the MCU, not even just in this show, I'm going to be honest with you, I love her. I actually think she's great. I think it's cool that, and I know I'm kind of getting into more of like what the show represents as a whole, we're getting to see multiple things through her, whether it's Native American culture, the life of an amputee, ASL, dealing with, someone that's deaf. I personally don't have any experience knowing anybody like that. It's cool to see that in the MCU. I really enjoy whenever she's on screen, even though she isn't really, communicating. She's just doing sign language. It's not like you really see emotion through her voice or anything, but the way she uses her facial expressions, Alankwa Cox, I believe is her name, I really think she's a great actress, and I'm really happy that Marvel cast her in the role. And every time she was on screen in this show, I loved her. I thought she was great. I thought she portrayed emotion pretty well. At times, and it's not her, it's more just like the characterization, I feel like she is a bit one note. Like, she isn't really, doing too much. She's kind of very straight-faced, and I get it. It's because she has like a troubled background. But I wish sometimes she would just show a little bit more emotion. Just the character, the actress, I'm sure she did her job well, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, it was clearly in the writing. That's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. But then moving on from there, right? We go into the story. And this is where things just start to sort of crumble. Because it just feels like 5 episodes isn't enough to tell the story that we're trying to tell here. And also, it feels like the story that we're trying to tell here, it isn't important enough and it isn't worthy enough for a television show. Even if it's just 5 episodes. Speaking of this being a television show and 5 episodes, that's something I have to talk about here because the plot is directly tied to, obviously, the length of the show. This show is 5 episodes long. The first episode, and these are just rough estimates, is like 51 minutes long. Episode 2 immediately drops to like 41. Episode 3 jumps up to 44. So it's like, okay, I know that we dropped from episode 1, but, we're still kind of keeping up that 40, mid 40s. The second to last episode drops down to like 39. Then the last episode is 36 minutes. Every single episode, basically, somewhat on a linear path, decreases in length. And the finale is the shortest episode. If anything, I would rather it be flipped to where the first episode is the shortest and the last episode is the longest. Because then at least I know, maybe we'll flesh everything out in the finale. But this finale, it's 36 minutes long. The intro and credits take up about 10 minutes. This is a 25-minute finale, barely. Including the recap too, it might be a little bit shorter. A 25-minute finale. Regardless of what you set up, that's just not enough time when your intro episode is 51 minutes. Even, I know you have to take away credits and stuff, but still. And it just doesn't feel like the story was substantial enough. There wasn't enough going on in here that was interesting enough to pull me. And at the end of each episode, I just feel like there wasn't this cliffhanger that I was just dying to see. I feel like Loki did cliffhangers well. Moon Knight did them exceptionally well. Regardless of your opinion on that, their cliffhangers in that show, amazing. The episodes of this series would just end with like the most moderately interesting thing ever that if you never watch the show ever again, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't care. And that's the thing where I had to just force myself to keep going because I just wanted to see where the story was going. Because the story overall isn't really that amazing. It's kind of just Echo going back to her hometown, dealing with some of this, kingpin antics and seeing some of her old family members while also kind of connecting with her history. I think that the best part of the show, sort of, besides the main character when it comes to the story, is all the Native American stuff and how she was connected to her ancestors and how we see her get her powers. There's a phenomenal, in my opinion, honestly, even though I said I know I'm like a little, on and off with the show, part towards the finale of the show involving her ancestors in the final fight. You guys will know what I mean if you watch the show. I don't really want to spoil it. That I thought was so great. And I was like, yeah, let's go. Especially that I really like Echo as a character. And also we learn where she kind of gets her name Echo, or at least she's given her name Echo in that episode. And I thought that was also cool. And it was earned, and it makes sense why her name would be Echo, and it's explained well. But then moving on from there to the story, like I said, it just feels like a reason to just, be fighting people. Because it just feels like content they needed to put on the platform. If we were never told this story it really wouldn't matter that much. Like, seriously, it wouldn't matter. And the thing is, the more that we go on, we learn about Kingpin and how she's related to, Echo, this, that. It gets more and more uninteresting. Moving on to the villain, Kingpin. I feel like every single trailer was promoting Kingpin. Oh my god, Kingpin's back. We already saw him in Hawkeye, but fine. For some reason, since Kingpin's in the show, the MCU decided to make all the Netflix shows canon, apparently, because they put them on Disney Plus under the MCU section. That doesn't make sense to me, but fine, so be it. So we have Kingpin in here, and yeah, he's alive. Whoa, yeah, we know that, even though he literally got shot in the head. Doesn't really make sense. But the thing is, I just feel like Kingpin, he doesn't feel as menacing and evil in this show as he should. He almost feels sympathetic in a way. Like, you almost feel bad for him slightly. Because he's just trying to connect to Maya. Because Maya, that's almost like his niece. And Kingpin's almost like her uncle. So it's like this weird relationship where she tried to shoot him in the head. And he's like longing for her. And he's like, please, let's just work together. And it's just weird. Overall, it's just weird. I don't know if I loved Kingpin in this. It's cool that he was in here. Because the show would have been even more uninteresting if it wasn't. But overall, I don't know. He was just kind of there. And I thought he was interesting. Vincent D'Onofrio appeared to have a wonderful time making this. But besides that, I just don't know if that was really just a way to take this show. I don't know how to explain it. But I guess we're kind of going the street, heroes and villains direction. Just doesn't really make sense to me. And I just don't know if they really explained it that well. On top of that, something else I noticed. Moving on. This is really quick. But I feel like this show and Miss Marvel, Echo is like the rated R version of Miss Marvel. Because they both are kind of finding their way. Both of them have this connection to their ancestors, and they have like this history, and they have flashbacks to ancient people, and it just feels like a rehash of stuff that we've already done in Miss Marvel. Although I did like it more in Echo, it's just confusing me why they do that twice in a row, kind of. Like, I know there's been shows in between, but still, I'm like, okay, so this is the second show we're doing now, where someone's seeing flashbacks of their ancestors, and they have to kind of like go back and get help from them or whatever. Kind of weird that they do that again. I don't know, but I don't know. I did kind of enjoy it though, like I said, more in Echo. One of my last thoughts here that, again, I feel like this show was just sold on is both Daredevil and the fight sequences. Because again, this show was sold on, oh my god, it's TVMA. But also, they teased Daredevil in the trailer. Guys, spoiler alert, Daredevil is in the first episode for 2 minutes with one line of dialogue, and that's it. And I'm not saying, I know this is Echo's show, that's the thing. I'm not saying I needed the show to be about him, but why did you show the one scene that he's in the trailer, and then expect everyone to like be excited that he's going to be in the rest of the show? It doesn't make sense. Getting into the fighting though, like I was saying, because these kind of go hand in hand, I think the fight scenes were really cool. They honestly got me really excited. They do feel a little bit cheap though, because I feel like sometimes you can see that punches aren't hitting, and I know it's acting, but at the same time, we have movies where we're seeing Godzilla on screen, and he doesn't exist, so I'm sure you can make it work somehow and make it look more real. And also like John Wick 4, where everything looks amazing. But the fight scenes were really cool, especially the one takes where basically we're going for like what feels like 4 minutes at a time, going back and forth switching between characters, this, that, whatever. The fight scenes were great, and I really enjoyed them. But there's also another thing about this show that almost just counteracts the fight scenes. And it's not like that it really is directly involved with the fight scenes. It's the side characters. Again, dealing with the length of this show. Every single side character in here, I would argue, is slightly interesting, at least. Every one, I was like, I was intrigued with their story. But we got zero time to even hear their story. Echo has a childhood friend. They were kind of separated. Now they're kind of, coming back together because Echo's returning to her hometown in Oklahoma. But we barely see them rekindling their friendship. There's like 2 scenes where they're back together. We spend more time with this random cousin side character named Biscuits, who's like this goofy, kind of like white guy from Oklahoma, who's like helping Echo for some reason, and he's just there. We spend more time with this guy doing side quests than we do with the more important side characters. And I'd even argue that the one that we see the most, this guy Biscuits, is even underdeveloped himself. Then we have all her family members that I also feel are underdeveloped. We have like her uncle character, I think, who's like the owner of this skate rink. I think he was one of my favorite characters though, I've got to say. I think he was my second favorite character. He was great. He was just looking out for Echo. But overall, again, he was undercooked. Every single character in here was underdeveloped. her grandmother, her grandfather, even her mother and her father, those types of things. It was underdeveloped. Her father's death, the way that they had to awkwardly edit in stuff from Hawkeye so that you would kind of understand what's going on here, also is weird. And the fact that they had to show Kingpin's backstory about how he killed his father, again, so you could understand it in this show. Man, it was just weird. Like, very strange choices were made in this show, in the editing department, like I was saying. Because some of the editing in this show is a little bit off, but the fact that they had to kind of chop up Hawkeye in here so you kind of understand, redo some stuff from Daredevil, it's just weird. But yeah, guys, overall, I just have such a tough time giving a strong opinion on the show. Because it just feels like I'm so done with the MCU at this point. Like, this just feels like another show. And again, I just don't know if this is even important or not. Because the thing that really bothers me, too, that I forgot to mention, is that this show is a Marvel Spotlight show. Meaning that's just a spotlight on a character. And I guess you don't really have to watch it. It's not that important. But then, there's a post-credit scene in the show that I would argue is so important to the street-level stuff of the future of the MCU that you need to watch it. So yeah, I guess you could just watch the post-credit scene, but if you never watched this show, and maybe you're not like too much on, comic book Twitter or, watch too much YouTube, you would never know about this post-credit scene. So do you have to watch this show, or do you not have to watch this show? If I didn't have this YouTube channel, and again, I'm a diehard MCU fan, I don't know if I would have watched Echo. I'm gonna be honest with you. I would have probably just went on Twitter, watched the post-credit scene that everyone's raving about, maybe watched a couple reviews on YouTube from my favorite YouTubers that would probably describe it in a more interesting way than the actual show does. And then from there, I would be like, okay, cool. I'm all caught up in Echo without even watching the show myself, because I would know what to expect. I do like some of the emotional elements in here and how, she's connected with her family. But overall, this show just sort of felt hollow and just left me feeling empty. I've never felt this way after watching an MCU project. At least, if I hated one, I knew I hated it. If I loved one, I knew I loved it. Even if I was slightly positive, slightly negative, I know. But this is like the epitome of what I can only call mid. And I know people say mid is like negative, like, oh, that was mid. I truly mean, this is literally the most mid something can be. It's not offensive to anyone. It's not godly terrible. It's just mid. In the middle, no opinion. And guys, that's what I'm going to leave you with here today. If I had to give my rating of this show, I think it would be maybe like a 5.5, maybe a 6, but it's like the most unenergetic 6 I could ever give. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. But again, it's the most like unenthusiastic 6 I've ever given something. It's not even like I really want to give it a 5. I don't even really want to give it a 7. It's just like a nonchalant 6. That's it. But guys, thank you so much for sticking with me for this long ass rant. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.